Hello everyone, my name is Zenitsu and I'm back with another Digimon deck profile video. So today I'm going to be taking a look at BT-05, and BT-05 adds a lot of new and powerful cards for us to be playing with and building some new and exciting decks or upgrading current and existing decks. So in today's video, I'm going to be going over a Beelzemon deck, and it's not necessarily just solely built around the fact that we want to use Beelzemon, considering we are going to be using the core of Purple MetalGarurumon from the Dash pack that was released alongside BT-04 to kind of help facilitate what Beelzemon is trying to do, or a potential way that we could utilize him. So this is, for the most part, going to be a Beelzemon deck, even though the main mega of the deck is going to be MetalGarurumon, just because I still think, even though in BT-05 there's just more attention on other more exciting purple decks, Purple MetalGarurumon is still a very powerful card, and he has a lot of very powerful tools that can still be used to some varying degrees of success. So, without further ado, onto the deck profile. First off, starting with the Digitama, I'm going to be running one copy of Yaamon. So Yaamon is the 5th Digitama of the deck. This could really be anything you feel like you want to be using. So either of the Pagumons or Xiaomon are also really good. I just think Yaamon is really good for this deck for what it's trying to do, just because it has this nice inheritable ability of during your turn, while you have 5 or more cards in your trash, then this Digimon gains plus 1000 DP. So that plus 1000 DP is still very, very important, just because it allows your higher levels to be that much more aggressive and be able to clear specific numbers that they might not be able to before. So I do think Yaamon is just a really good Digitama, but again, it is the 5th Digitama of the deck. As far as the main Digitama of the deck goes, I'm going to be choosing to run 4 copies of DemiMeramon. So DemiMeramon is still just the best Digitama that we currently have to be working with for purple, just because he has this nice inheritable ability of on delete, allowing us to draw 1 card and discard 1 card from our hand. So this is just very, very powerful, because looting is generally more powerful than just straight up raw milling, because you're selecting the cards that you're going to be putting in your trash, so you could set up your specific synergies while also filling up your trash at the same time as drawing you cards. So this is just looking to be the best Digitama for purple to be using still. Next up, onto the rookies, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Impmon. So Impmon is looking to be pretty good because he has this nice on-delete ability of allowing us to trash the top 3 cards of your deck. So this is a really good way at just filling up our trash as quickly as we possibly can. And yes, even though I did just say looting is better than self-milling, Impmon is still just a pretty decent card because it is one of the larger self-mills that we have to be playing around with on a level 3 body, and he does have interaction with Beelzemon, which is the primary reason why we want to be playing this card. Not necessarily for his on-delete ability, even though it can come in handy every now and then. It's mostly just because of his interaction with Beelzemon. Next, I'm going to be running 2 copies of Tapirmon. So Tapirmon is another really decent rookie to be playing around with because he has his own on-delete ability of allowing us to draw 1 card. So this is just pretty good because drawing cards, it just helps with the deck's overall consistency. We do have ways to utilize some on-delete abilities. We don't have a whole lot of ways, but we still do have some. And at worst, this is just a really decent rookie to consider aggroing with it, just to try to have him suicide into the opponent's security, dealing them a damage and allowing us to draw 1 card, not only filling up our trash, but helping us dig through our deck to find our pieces that much more consistently. So Tapirmon is just still looking to be a pretty decent Digimon to be using. Next, I'm going to be running 2 copies of Gazimon. So Gazimon is still just a really powerful rookie to be playing around with because he has this really nice native ability where during all turns, the opponent can't gain memory except by Tamer effects. So this is just really good because purple has ways of recurring our low levels, so it's always going to be easy to get him back onto the field in case we need to grab him back, just to try to stop the opponent from utilizing their cards to try to gain memory. And there is just a ton of memory manipulation in the game that is outside of Tamers, so he's just a really good way at shutting those down and keeping those strategies in check. Next, I'm going to be running 3 copies of Labramon. So Labramon is a really decent Digimon because it has this nice on-play ability of allowing us to draw 1 card and then discard 1 card. So the whole idea behind this card is if we're just going to try to keep one of our Digimon in the raising area, then we still need to try to play cards onto the field to try to gain some sort of advantage, and Labramon is really good at allowing us to gain that type of advantage because of this on-play ability to basically just loot, allowing us to dig through our deck faster and fill up our trash all at the same time. And then the last rookie of the deck is going to be 2 copies of Guillemon. So Guillemon is a really decent Digimon for the deck because he does have this nice on-delete ability, where if this card was deleted by a card effect, then you get to gain 1 memory. Like I said, we don't run a whole lot of cards that are trying to delete our cards ourselves, so most of the time this ability isn't going to be firing, but we do need it in the deck for those few chances that it does fire, and when it does fire, it has some very powerful synergy that can line up some very powerful plays, which is why we want Guillemon. Next, on to the champions, I'm going to be running 3 copies of Vilemon. So Vilemon is kind of a flex spot. This could really be anything you feel like you want to be using. I just think for where we currently are, Vilemon is super important because he is going to be acting as an alternate blocker because he has the blocker ability, and his stat line is actually pretty decent and relevant in the current meta just because 6,000 DP is a little bit harder to remove than 5,000 DP, and there's just a whole bunch of ways to delete Digimon with 5,000 DP, making that kind of blocker a little bit weaker. So having an alternate form of blocker that's also a little bit cheaper to hard play but slightly more expensive to Evo is just adding a lot of different variety and versatility to what the deck can be doing. Next, I'm going to be running 3 copies of Meramon. So Meramon is really only in the deck just because he has a really low Evo cost of 1. We don't care about the fact that he has 5,000 DP hard plays for 5. We're just looking to use him as a cheap Evo to get into our higher stages that much more efficiently with. And then the last champion of the deck is going to be 4 copies of Devimon. So this Devimon is really good because this is going to be the dedicated blocker of the deck. Yes, he does have 5,000 DP, but he also evos for 1, making him a very tempo-efficient blocker, which it makes him a little bit easier to play than Vilemon. And because we do have Vilemon in the deck, we're not necessarily afraid to Digivolve past him and use him as a tempo tool. So between all of our champions, we just have a lot of different ways that we could utilize them to just ensure that we could kind of maximize their overall efficiency. Next, on to the ultimates, I'm going to be running 2 copies of Kimeramon. So Kimeramon is another flex spot. This could really be anything you want it to be. If you are going to be swapping this out, I would suggest that you swap it out with something like Skullmeramon, just for the raw tempo efficiency of that card. But regardless, Kimeramon is still just a very powerful card because he has this nice on-play ability, where we get to delete one of our Digimon to delete one of the opponent's level 5 or lower Digimon. So if they're not expecting a Kimeramon play and they greedily raise out their Digimon, then Kimeramon could come in and hard punish the opponent, on top of which we do have other cards that do combo and synergize with this card, which is the only real reason why I'm running it. Otherwise, like I said, I would probably just have this card be a tempo efficiency card just to help me get into my higher levels. Next, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Lady Devimon. So Lady Devimon is an absolutely insane card. This card is just super good because she has 2 abilities. Her first ability is a when digivolving ability where we get to draw 2 cards and then we have to discard 2 cards from our hand. So this is just really good because it is another very powerful form of looting, and looting, as I mentioned before, is just really good because not only is it allowing us to see more cards out of our deck, but we also get to selectively fill up our trash to line up very specific synergies and lines of play. So that's just what's making her really good, and then on top of that, she also has an inheritable ability where during your turn, once per turn, when we use a option card, then we get to delete one of the opponent's level 3 Digimon. So this is just really good because we are going to be playing the MetalGarurumon engine and package, and that package does want us to use option cards, so we could utilize Lady Devimon's ability to just add the fact that we could use our option cards to delete some of the opponent's low-level Digimon, all making her just a very powerful card on top of having some ever so slightly larger stats, sitting at 8,000 DP for a level 5. And then the last ultimate of the deck is going to be 2 copies of Black War Growlmon. So Black War Growlmon is a pretty interesting card in the deck. We're not really going to be trying to utilize his Digiburst ability all that often, although we do have the possibility of using it, which is really good because his Digiburst ability of Digiburst 3 allows us to return a level 3 purple Digimon from our trash without paying its memory cost, and then its on-play effects don't activate. well, we're not playing any that have on-play effects outside of Labramon, so we don't necessarily care about that. We just care about the ability to potentially spawn a level 3 body, which the primary level 3 that we want to be spawning is going to be Impmon, so then we could use Impmon to warp into Beelzemon. So that's the whole intended synergy there. But the other thing to Black Garurumon is we also want to utilize his inheritable ability with our level 7s, allowing our level 7s to essentially be able to multi-attack because of his when attacking ability he gives, where once per turn we get to delete one of our other Digimon to unsuspend this Digimon. So that's just really powerful because for utilizing the fact that we have other Digimon on the field, we could get multiple swings off and we could utilize those multiple swings in some very powerful ways. Next, on to the Megas, I'm going to be running 3 copies of Beelzemon. So Beelzemon is looking to be a pretty good Digimon to be running, and I do think this card is a little bit underrated in the current meta, just because there's not a whole lot of experimentation with him, and I do think his main ability that allows us to warp from our level 3 into a level 6 is what's making the card very, very powerful, because the only condition that's attached to it is we have to warp off of Impmon as long as we have 10 or more cards in our trash. So that's the only real reason why we're trying to fill up our trash as quickly as we possibly can, so that way we could set up the warp as quickly as we possibly can to try to go into our level 7s even more efficiently than what the opponent might be expecting. So that's already looking to be pretty good because of his warp ability, and then on top of that he also has a nice when digivolving ability where we get to delete one of the opponent's level 4 or lower Digimon. So this is just a pretty decent ability just because having some form of removal attached to what he's doing is already looking to be pretty good, just because Purple just wants to make sure that it could have complete field dominance, and this helps with that field dominance. The only unfortunate thing is the fact that he evos for 4, but there are ways of mitigating this in the deck and very specific lines of play, but at worst, still just warping from a level 3 to a level 6 is looking to be pretty powerful. And then the other mega of the deck is going to be 4 copies of MetalGarurumon. So MetalGarurumon is still a really decent card because of his main ability of being able to Digiburst 2. That's not limited to once per turn, and his Digiburst ability allows us to use a purple option card with a play cost of 7 or less from our hand for free. So this is just really good because we have a plethora of very powerful options that we have access to utilize this in some very devastating ways. So we could use this multiple times in a single turn to just play very powerful options for free and try to dominate the board with his ability that way. Next, on to the level 7s, I'm going to be running 1 copy of Omnimon Zwart. So Omnimon Zwart is a very powerful Digimon, and the only reason why I'm not running him any higher is because he does have some anti-synergy with MetalGarurumon over here. But outside of that anti-synergy with MetalGarurumon, he's still looking to be a very powerful Digimon in his own right, and that's why we still want to run at least one of him. So what he's doing is he has 2 abilities, a when attacking and a when digivolving ability. His when digivolving ability states that we get to trash the top 3 cards of our deck, and then we get to play up to 2 black or purple Digimon with play costs of 8 or less from our trash onto the battlefield for free. So this is just really good because it's spawning multiple bodies while filling up our trash, so in case we don't get to a particular trash count, then this card could help us get to that 10 trash count to warp Impmons into Beelzemon, and then the bodies that he's spawning is basically going to be anything that's level 5 or below. So his first ability is really, really powerful, and the only anti-synergy that he has is with MetalGarurumon, because most of the time we want to pick 2 level 5s just to have as strong as bodies as we possibly can, and MetalGarurumon digivolving on top of one of those level 5s means that we won't be able to reutilize his Digiburst ability. So that's the only anti-synergy that he has, but outside of that, his when attacking ability is also looking to be pretty strong because it allows us to return one of our level 6 Digimon from his inheritable sources back to our hand to delete one of the opponent's unsuspended Digimon that has a play cost of 12 or less. So he does have removal on his when attacking ability, and his when digivolving ability allows us to spawn some bodies, so he's just looking to be a very, very powerful card to be using. And then the last Digimon and level 7 of the deck is going to be 2 copies of Omnimon Zwart Defeat. So Omnimon Zwart Defeat is just a very, very powerful Digimon just because of everything this card is doing. So the first thing that he's doing is he has a security ability where when he's checked from the security, we get to ignore the security battle, but we get to play him for free. So just being able to spawn a free level 7 for the opponent checking him in the security is looking to be really good because, well, it's just a free level 7 that's coming onto the field. And then on top of that, he also has a when digivolving ability where we get to delete one of the opponent's Tamers. So the best Digimon we could digivolve him on top of is going to be a naked MetalGarurumon because we threw away all of his inheritables to the Digiburst ability to just do some various other things and then end the turn off by digivolving into an Omnimon Sword Defeat to just delete the opponent's Tamer and have a Omnimon Sword Defeat on the field. And then what's making Omnimon Sword Defeat really powerful on the field is the fact that he has an on-delete ability that allows you to delete one of the opponent's Digimon. So even if they are able to delete Omnimon Sword Defeat, they might be losing one of their Digimon, and that's just looking to be very powerful, on top of the fact that he does Evo for 3, so he's very tempo efficient compared to a lot of the other level 7s in the game, and the only downside is he has 13,000 DP, but sometimes 13,000 DP is going to be enough to break through most of the opponent's security. So he is just a very powerful card to just be playing around with for all of those different reasons. Next, on to the options, I'm going to be running 2 copies of Trump Sword. So Trump Sword is a really decent option because it's acting as kind of like a pseudo Gaia Force for the deck, where its main ability allows us to delete one of the opponent's unsuspended Digimon. So this is one of the cards we want to use with MetalGarurumon, so we use his Digiburst ability to be able to play Trump Swords for free, and on top of that, it also has a nice security ability of activating its main, so if the opponent has a field full of Digimon, then this could possibly pick off one of the unsuspended Digimon that hasn't attacked yet, and that could help save you the game. So Trump Sword, while it's not necessarily the best removal option in the game, it's still a very powerful one that we are going to be comboing with MetalGarurumon. As far as the only other option in the deck, I'm going to be running 3 copies of Nailbone. So Nailbone is going to be the primary option we want to use for MetalGarurumon because its main ability allows us to play a purple level 3 Digimon and a purple level 4 Digimon from our trash for free. We don't get any of the on-play effects, but we don't necessarily care because we're just getting 2 bodies on board for using this ability off of MetalGarurumon. So just 2 Digibursts to play 2 Nailbones is already looking to be pretty powerful because it's just flooding the field more than what the opponent can be anticipating. And then its security ability is also pretty good, where you get to play 1 purple level 4 or lower Digimon from your trash for free, and then you don't get any of its on-play effects. So if it's checked from the trash, being able to res a lower level Digimon is looking to be pretty good. We could res a blocker if we need to start blocking an extra attack, or we could use this to revive Impmon or some of our other Digimon to utilize them in various different ways. So Nailbone is just looking to be very, very powerful to just be able to flood the field with. Next, on to the Tamers, I'm going to be running 2 copies of Matt Ishida. So this is the BT-02 Matt Ishida, and we're utilizing this card because it is going to be the dedicated memory fixing Tamer. So if our memory is ever less than 3, he'll always just hard set it to 3, and we could utilize his on-play ability to just grab a purple Digimon or option from our trash back to our hand. So we are going to be interacting with the trash, and Matt is a card to just allow us to grab whatever we want out of our trash back into our hand. And then the last Tamer of the deck and last card of the deck is going to be 2 copies of Tai Kamiya and Matt Ishida. So this is the White Duo Tamer, and this is a really good card because it has the nice ability where at the start of your turn, if the opponent has a level 6 or higher Digimon in play, then we get to gain 2 memory. So if we pair that up with our memory fixing Tamer, then we could start our turn off at 5 memory for the opponent just having a level 6 on the field, and that's looking to be pretty good because we could utilize that memory in lots of different ways. And then on top of that, they also have another ability where during your turn, all of your Digimon with Omnimon in their names gain security attack +1. So this is really good because if we just have a Matt and Tai sitting on our field, the opponent checks into a Sword Defeat. Now our Sword Defeat is going to be able to deal 2 security checks that we didn't even have to play. So that's just looking to be very, very powerful on top of some of the other combo lines of play that we have to make the most out of this additional security attack plus. So one of the big combo plays that I like to make is if I have War Growlmon as an inheritable inside of MetalGarurumon and I didn't Digiburst, then I could use MetalGarurumon's Digiburst ability to get rid of the level 3 and the level 4, play a Nailbone in order to res said level 3 and level 4 that I threw away with the Digiburst. Ideally, the level 3, you want it to be Guilmon, so that way you could then swing with MetalGarurumon and then utilize Black Wargrowmon's ability to pop the Guilmon to gain 1 additional memory. And then you could use that 1 additional memory if you started the turn off with 3 memory off of Matt, and then utilize MetalGarurumon to Digiburst again to play a second Nailbone to spawn another level 3 and another level 4, and ideally you want that level 3 to be Impmon, so then you have 4 memory to Digivolve Impmon into Beelzemon, and then end the turn on Digivolving your MetalGarurumon into either Zwart or Zwart Defeat. So there's just a lot of different combo lines of play that you can make, all depending on what cards you have and what cards you see, but the idea is you're still just using classic purple MetalGarurumon to his utmost potential, utilizing some new powerful level 7s and other new tech to just do some very interesting things with. And then there's still just so much you could do with the deck, whether you're trying to focus on Beelzemon or trying to focus on MetalGarurumon. Either of those strategies are very, very powerful depending on how you take it. You could run DemiMeramon just as a easy 2-drop. You could consider running Gabumon if you're trying to go more Beelzemon focused, so that way you have an on-attack trigger to just try to draw 1 and trash 1. So that's just looking to be pretty good to try to fill up your trash as often and quickly as you possibly can. If you are going more into the option direction with MetalGarurumon, then you could play Dracmon as a really good on-play to add back your options back to your hand. Then you could also consider running Devimon just because he natively has Retaliation and gives Retaliation, which could be pretty annoying for the opponent to deal with. Then you also have Garurumon if you want to try to double down on Beelzemon a little bit more, again with the drawing and discarding. And then you also have Kimeramon as just a generic tempo tool, and if you're continuing down supporting Beelzemon, then you have Garurumon to think about just because he's acting similar to Yaamon if you're choosing to run Yaamon, where you're just using him for a good easy DP boost. In either of the builds, you could use Mastimon just because Mastimon's really good at trashing the opponent's security while having a good when digivolving ability to reuse off of Zwart, and you get to play bodies from your trash onto the field, so you're even flooding the field there. And then you have Lilithmon that interacts with both. So Lilithmon's pretty good because she's interacting with the fact that you want 10 or more cards in your trash, similar to Beelzemon. And then she also is interacting with options, allowing you to gain 2 memory off of using your option. So that's looking to be pretty good, while adding 2 purple options from your trash to your hand to reuse it for later. And then you also have Anubismon. So Anubismon is pretty good at just being able to res a level 3, so that way you could digivolve into Beelzemon off of the Impmon you just res, so that's looking to be pretty good there, on top of the fact that you also have the ability to give any Digimon you resed the rush ability. So if you do use MetalGarurumon and Nailbone, then all of those Digimon that you resed off of Nailbone will gain rush, so it's another really good Digimon to think about there. And then you even have Chaos Gallantmon, just because Chaos Gallantmon is, again, another really good Digimon with another really strong when digivolving ability that also will help us control and mitigates the opponent's field. And on top of that, he also has another ability where you could just keep spawning level 3 Digimon, which you could then try to warp it digivolve into a Beelzemon. So there's just a lot of different things that you can do, and there's even more megas that have various different synergies, all depending on what style you're trying to double down on and what your main focus and mega of the deck is going to be. And then on top of that, you also have access to Millenniumon. And then we have a whole bunch of other different options that you could even think about running too. So Hell's Gate is another really good removal option. You could use Demonic Disaster to try to get multi-attacks off, on top of the fact that its security ability also could help play level 3s, which could help you play in Impmon. So going into your turn, you could just warp into Beelzemon. Then you have Earthshaker to act as some more removal, and you even have Deathclaw that, again, acts as some more removal. Then you also could think about building the deck to be kind of like a level 7 turbo, and then you could include something like Mega Digimon Fusion, because this allows you to go into your level 7s relatively efficiently, and because we're in purple, we have ways of deleting the level 7, so that way it doesn't go back to the bottom of the deck if you don't want it there. And then another really good tamer you could consider running is going to be Takumi. The idea is we're just using this card to try to draw cards to see our pieces more consistently. But either way, the deck is still looking to be pretty powerful, and it's a shame that people aren't playing it more just because there's more attention on some of the other decks and a lot of the newer cards. But I do think that between Beelzemon and between Purple MetalGarurumon, they both have various ways that you could play either of them. I just felt like it would be very interesting to try to fuse both of them into one deck and see what I can do with it. So that's what brought this idea forth, and I do think it's a really fun and interesting deck to be playing around with. So that's all I really have for this video. As always, feel free to tell me your thoughts down in the comments below, and down in the description below are a couple of different ways you could support me and the channel. So I do have a TCG Player affiliate link, so when you use that link to buy cards off of TCG Player, then some of that money will go to supporting me and the channel. I also do make and sell playmats over on Overcard Gamers on Facebook, so when you buy a playmat with my design, then some of that money will also go to help supporting me and the channel. And on top of all of that, I do have a Twitch account over on twitch.tv/Zenitsu, so giving me a follow and a subscription also helps support me there, and I do play Digimon on top of various other games on that platform as well. So thank you everyone for watching, and as always, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content, and I'll see you in the next video.